You think you're in control. You think power rewards honesty, effort, fairness, but it doesn't. It devours those illusions. In every room, predators already wait, calm, invisible, sharpening knives behind polite smiles. They don't shout. They don't argue. They bend the frame, and you follow. You never see the moment you're trapped. In minutes, you'll learn the laws they use, the same secret laws Machiavelli saw centuries ago that still control you today. The truth is harsh. Your instincts are broken. You talk too much. You explain yourself. You seek approval. Every word you spill is leverage handed to someone else. That's why you feel powerless after arguments, after rejections, after meetings where silence hangs heavier than your defense. The powerful know something you don't. Rules written in shadows. They move slower, speak less, vanish at will. And when they return, the room bends toward them like iron to a magnet. Tonight you learn those laws. This is Curiosity to Wisdom, the channel that strips illusions and exposes the mechanics of power. Stay until the end, because once you learn these laws, you will never see yourself or the world the same way again. Subscribe now, not for comfort, for control. Here is the first cut of truth. The human heart craves recognition. It beats faster when someone notices, when applause fills the room, when validation arrives like a drug that soothes the ego. But that craving is a chain, an invisible leash. The one who grants you recognition becomes your master, because your sense of worth is no longer born from within, but borrowed from their approval. Think of the moments when you explained yourself after being accused, not because the truth demanded it, but because you couldn't bear the stain of judgment. Remember when rejection made you plead for another chance, not out of necessity, but out of fear of vanishing from someone's gaze. Recall how silence made you perform like a desperate actor, only to be noticed again. This identity, the visible self, the needy self, the ever-talking self, is already a corpse. It belongs to weakness, not power. Burn it without hesitation. To rule, you must adopt something colder, sharper, detached. Not a person, but a force. Not a mask, but a weapon. 5 centuries ago, in the heart of Renaissance Italy, rulers rose and fell, not because fortune favored them, but because their minds failed them. Strength of arms was never enough. A prince could command armies, own gold, and inspire songs, yet collapse overnight because he could not calculate the shadows that circled him. History shows this truth again and again. The prince who relies on affection, on the fragile threads of love and loyalty, will be destroyed. But the prince who understands fear, who bends perception until fear becomes obedience, will endure. This is not cruelty. Cruelty is wasteful. This is clarity, the ruthless arithmetic of survival. Consider Cesare Borgia. He did not exhaust himself answering every accusation or defending every slander. He allowed silence to do his work. When attention grew dangerous, he disappeared, leaving rivals to chase a ghost. When he returned, it was with thunder, sudden, violent, impossible to ignore. His life embodied principles as old as power itself. Not cheap tricks, not the charm of charisma, but laws, unyielding, sharp, and eternal. Laws you are about to uncover. Machiavelli's first secret law, the black frame. Principle. Whoever defines the frame defines the fight. Power does not belong to the one with the louder voice, but to the one who dictates the boundaries of reality itself. Most men crumble the moment they are accused. They defend, they explain, they justify, forgetting that the instant they step into the accuser's frame, the battle is already lost. Victory is not found in reaction. It is found in redirection. Picture the scene. A crowded boardroom. A rival leans forward, eyes sharp, and declares you incompetent. The ordinary man defends himself, piling words upon words, hoping to escape the noose. The wise man does not. He lets silence thicken the air. He utters only one phrase, calm, surgical. That's incorrect. Then he pivots without hesitation. The real issue is execution speed. Let's address that. Suddenly, the spotlight shifts. The attacker, once predator, now dances like a performer trapped on your stage. The signal of victory? The room's silence, followed by eyes turning not to the accuser, but to you. That is the frame breaking. That is control bending beneath your hand. Principle: what is scarce becomes powerful. Human beings are wired to desire what retreats, to worship what they cannot constantly touch. The weak, blinded by insecurity, believe the opposite, that constant availability equals importance. They flood the stage with their presence, speak without pause, and make themselves endlessly accessible. But abundance breeds contempt. What is everywhere is valued nowhere. Now imagine a negotiation. They press you for more time, more attention, more access. The weak stammer, "I'm busy," but still comply. The strong do not explain. They vanish. Their absence becomes a shadow that fills the room more than their words ever could. Days later they return, slower, colder, controlled. And now the other side leans forward. They offer more. Their voices sharpen, their tone restless, as if fearing the moment will slip away. Scarcity reshapes the balance of power. But heed this warning. Vanish too long, and you are forgotten. Disappear in pulses, not eternities. Withdraw, then reappear with precision. The signal of success? Their pace quickens, their offers grow richer, their fear of losing you outweighs their confidence. That is scarcity pulsing in your hand. These first two laws rewrite your daily encounters. The boss who humiliates you in a meeting, the black frame turns his attack into silence, the date who grows bored, the scarcity pulse makes them hunger for your return. The rival whispering behind your back, you don't chase, you vanish, then appear colder than before. Each time you leave calmer, sharper, untouchable, and this is only the beginning. If you're ready for more than platitudes, subscribe now. This is Curiosity to Wisdom, where power is weaponized. Principle: rejection is not death. Rejection is data. Most people tremble at the sting of rejection. To be turned down, dismissed, or denied feels like an execution of the self. They treat a simple no as if it were a death sentence, their value collapsing in their own minds the moment another refuses them. That is weakness. Rejection is not the end. Rejection is information. It is a signal, a mirror, a map of where the boundaries of another's perception lie. To the one who understands power, rejection is not humiliation, it is reconnaissance. Picture the moment. You bring forth an idea, confident, poised, and it is struck down in an instant. The ordinary man panics. He rushes to justify himself, to salvage scraps of approval, to fight for a validation that no longer exists. But you are not ordinary. You follow the steps. Step 1. You do not react. Your stillness becomes heavier than any argument. Step 2. You withdraw, not in anger, not in shame, but in silence. Let the rejection echo in the air. Let the others feel the absence of your energy. Then comes the pivot, the reframing. You do not think, "I was rejected." That thought belongs to slaves of opinion. Instead, you tell yourself, "They revealed their frame." Every rejection exposes the architecture of someone's mind, their fears, their priorities, their values. They betray it all when they say no. And once revealed, you now hold the blueprint. You are no longer wounded, you are informed. Step 4. the return. You do not chase, you do not plead, you do not attempt to erase the rejection. Instead, you re-enter with presence, subtly shifting the narrative. You pull the other side toward you, not through begging, but through repositioning. The rejection no longer defines you, it defines them. They showed their hand, you showed patience. They set a frame, you now bend it. There is no revenge, no bitterness, no collapse. Rejection does not shrink you, it sharpens you. Every dismissal trims away weakness, distraction, and illusion. What is erased is not your worth, but the noise around it. Understand this. Rejection is not a closing door. It is a reshuffling of the room, a chance to reappear stronger, colder, more precise. You were never truly rejected. You were repositioned. That is the secret hidden in the word no. Not the end of your power, but the redirection of it. Machiavelli's fourth secret law, the silence commandment. Principle. Silence is the most feared sound in power. Most people cannot stand silence. It claws at them, gnaws at their nerves, and forces them to reveal what they would otherwise keep hidden. When words die in the air, the weak scramble to fill the void. They chatter, they justify, they dilute their own authority just to escape the tension. But the one who understands power knows this. Silence is not weakness, it is gravity. And gravity bends everything toward itself. Picture the scene. You deliver a hard line, one that cuts through the noise like a blade. The ordinary man, afraid of appearing harsh, rushes to soften it. He adds qualifiers, excuses, apologies, burying his strength beneath excess. You do not. You hold. 3 seconds. 5 seconds. 10, if you must. The silence burns like a flame no one dares extinguish. The others squirm, shifting in their seats, their voices breaking the quiet with nervous explanations. They seek to fill the gap you deliberately created, and in that very gap you dominate. The mechanics are simple yet brutal. Pitch your voice lower, speak slower, cut your words in half, then cut them again. Deliver only the essential and stop. Imagine saying, "I disagree." Then nothing. No justification, no expansion, no scramble to soften the blow. You leave the words hanging in the air like a guillotine suspended above their heads. Their minds cannot rest until the silence breaks, and they will always try to break it before you do. Understand this truth. Silence is not absence. Silence is presence in its purest form. It announces that you do not need to argue, that you do not need to perform, that you will not beg for understanding. It creates a vacuum, and human nature despises a vacuum. The more uncomfortable they grow, the more they speak, and the more they reveal. Silence is also a mirror. Or it reflects desperation, insecurity, and hidden weakness in others. In the presence of your stillness, their nerves expose them. They confess things they did not intend. They bargain harder than they had planned. They fold without realizing they have surrendered. The test of victory is unmistakable. When the room waits for your next word, when every eye leans forward, when the silence itself belongs to you, you have already won. Words will come later, but by then the ground has shifted. Silence, when mastered, is not the absence of sound. It is the architecture of control. Machiavelli's fifth secret law, the identity myth. Principle. Reputation is debated. Myth is untouchable. Most men cling to their reputation as if it were armor. They defend their names in every room, scramble to explain their choices, and chase recognition like beggars chasing coins. But the truth is merciless. Reputation is fragile. It is tossed about in the mouths of others, reshaped by gossip, distorted by envy. A single rumor can damage it, a single mistake can stain it, and a single enemy can tear it apart. Reputation is not enough. What endures beyond the petty battlefield of words is something rarer, colder, untouchable. Myth. The shift begins the moment you stop defending yourself. You stop explaining your motives. You stop rushing to clarify your position when accused. You withdraw from the need to be understood, and in that withdrawal, you create something far more dangerous than reputation. You become a whisper, an aura, a rumor that glides through corridors and lingers in the air. You cease to exist as a person tied down by explanation. You transform into a presence, elusive yet undeniable. Your silence acquires teeth. It is no longer passive but sharp, unsettling, forcing others to wonder, to speculate, to invent stories in the vacuum you leave behind. Your stillness becomes radiant, not weak, not absent but inevitable. You no longer need the room's eyes upon you because you dictate where the room looks. You bend perception, not through performance, but through absence. Understand the distinction. Reputations rise and fall with the wind. They belong to the crowd. They can be destroyed, smeared, or forgotten. But myth is eternal. A myth cannot be attacked because it does not live in one place. It is not tied to facts, but to fear. It is not held in evidence, but in imagination. Myths are immortal because no hand can grip them. And so, from this moment, you make a decision. You do not chase the spotlight. The spotlight is too fickle, too crowded, too blinding. Instead, you become the shadow the light fears to touch. You become untouchable, not by standing in the center of recognition, but by stepping beyond it, where rumor, silence, and inevitability converge into something greater than reputation. You are no longer just seen. You are believed. So here is your vow. Do not lower yourself into thinking this moment is about subscribing because it is free. Free is worthless. The world is flooded with free things, and the weak gorge on them until they rot with distraction. Do not tell yourself this is content. Content is the noise that suffocates the modern world. Scrolling distractions, meaningless chatter, endless streams of words designed to entertain but never to transform. This vow is not for those seeking comfort. It is for those ready to abandon weakness. You stand at a threshold. Behind you lies the life of prey, the endless explaining, the chasing of validation, the frantic desperation to be seen, liked, acknowledged. But before you lies another world, a darker, colder, more commanding world. In this world, silence is no longer emptiness, but a weapon. Rejection is no longer humiliation, but data. Scarcity is no longer a flaw, but gravity. Identity is no longer reputation, but myth. Each law is not theory. It is blade, shield, and crown. This threshold is not a line you cross lightly. It demands a vow that you are done with begging for scraps of recognition, a vow that you will never again live as prey, waiting for permission to matter, a vow that you will command, even if it means standing alone in the silence. Understand this truth. This channel, curiosity to wisdom, is not for the hungry crowd looking to be entertained. It is not for the restless who want quick comfort. It is for those willing to sharpen themselves into weapons. It is for those who are prepared to step into the shadows, to claim the laws, to walk with the knowledge that power does not shout. It whispers, bends, and commands. So make the vow. Do not hesitate. Do not dilute it with excuses. Cross the threshold now. Enter the space where power is no longer theory, but practice, where silence bends the room, where rejection maps the enemy, where scarcity turns you into treasure, and where myth makes you untouchable. Do not subscribe as prey. Subscribe as predator. Cross the threshold. Claim the laws. The world does not reward the loud. Look around and you will see them everywhere, the noisy ones shouting their names into the air, drowning themselves in speeches, declarations, and endless justifications. They believe the sheer volume of their voice will carve their legacy. But noise is smoke. It rises quickly, blurs the sky, then vanishes without a trace. The loud are remembered briefly, then discarded. The world does not bend to those who scream for attention. It bends to those who master silence. Silence is not emptiness. It is control. The one who commands silence commands gravity itself. In their stillness, they are unshakable, unmovable, untouchable. Others squirm to fill the void, rush to explain, stumble over their own words. But the master of silence simply waits, and in the waiting, bends the room. Understand this. Power is not about being heard. Power is about being obeyed. The loud seek recognition, but the silent shape reality. The loud fight for applause, but the silent dictate the rhythm of the fight. The loud beg to be seen, but the silent decide where the eyes will turn. The world is a stage, but not all actors are equal. Some play roles, reciting lines written by others, desperate for approval. But a select few stand apart, silent directors, unseen authors, the ones who never compete for attention, yet dictate every movement in the play. These are the ones history bows to, not because they shouted, but because they whispered, waited, and ruled without needing to announce themselves. This is your final line to remember. The world does not reward the loud. It never has. It rewards the one who bends silence into a weapon, into a throne, into law. Words may fade, declarations may vanish, but silence, when mastered, echoes longer than any shout. If you must choose between noise and silence, choose silence sharpened. Choose silence that commands. Choose silence. She that bends the strong until they bow, and the weak until they break. The world does not reward the loud. It obeys the one who bends the silence.